Welcome back to part two of the 2005 Ford Escape that needed some emergency repairs. The previous video, part one, was replacing one CV shaft that was about to explode and come apart. And part two, today, is going to be one of the rear wheel cylinders is leaking. And while the brakes are not in pristine condition, we want to stop that leak now before it becomes an even bigger problem. All right. Now that my children are done murdering each other, let's get to it. Alright, wheel cylinder time.
I've been battered and bruised, thrown to the wolves, dragged through the gates of hell. I've been bested and tested in the presence of fools, but I am still here to tell.
Alright, so a couple of things real quick. This is the wheel cylinder that we're replacing. Well, this is the new one. This is the old one. Okay? It's kind of got this little shield over it. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that'll come out with it. So anyway, a couple of things. The newer style they use here, they have a slot in them instead of like the old school ones where the shoe kind of goes into little tabs on either side. So this just, the center part of the brake shoe sits in that big slot right there. So it's kind of dumbs it down for you, which is nice, to be honest. So I believe I'm going to be able to remove this. I'm going to clamp the rubber line so we can try to prevent air from getting further up into the system at all, also preventing more fluid from draining out than necessary. We're going to pull this spring off, and that should relieve tension up here and should give us enough room to get this in and out without a problem. I don't think we're going to have to disassemble anything else. Now, this customer does know the brake pads are getting low. They are going to need to be replaced in the not so distant future, but it doesn't need to be done right now because they're just now approaching kind of the sketchy side of things. So when it comes to pulling the spring off, they do make a special like little T-handle with a hook on it to be able to hook the end of that and pull it out. You can also use classic brake drum tool. These are universal. They have about 5 different ways you can use it. So the way you would use this on this car is take this hook end, hook it under the spring, and you're going to be prying against the brake shoe surface to get that spring out. What you need to make sure you're careful on is you're not up here like this, because you're going to gouge into that shoe, and that can in turn either cause this material to break off, which is not good. It could damage everything else in here running around there. Not to mention, if it gets lodged between the shoe and the drum, you're not going to have the brake contact that you're expecting, or your parking brake might give out. Also, if you gouge it, you could cause a imperfection in the surface, which is going to cause the drum to wear funny, which means you'd have to either replace the drums or have them turned before you put new shoes in. So I recommend, if you can, getting something you can put between the tip of this and the shoe, preferably metal, that way it won't dig in and dent. Piece of wood that'll hold up to the clamping force to get that spring out, probably be alright too. I'm gonna see what I've got over here in my little scrap bucket as far as metal goes, because I think I've got a few pieces that'll be small enough to be able to work. But I believe that's it as far as, you know, talking about things before we do them. If you're not familiar with how these are attached, they're just two little bolts that come through from the back side of the backing plate and the brake line. Now I recommend taking it out. Kind of really doesn't matter, as far as actual removal, but I would recommend breaking that brake line loose. It's got a hex kind of head on there. Break that loose before you go to try to take this out. This is a hard line right here that runs this piece, so it's not going to be wanting to move around, but what you can do is unscrew that and then just leave it as is. Take those other two bolts out, and then as you pull this out, the brake line will just stay there. And then in the reverse, I recommend starting to thread on that line. Thread it in as much as you possibly can before you put those bolts in and tighten them down, just in case there's any kind of torsion or twist to this line, because if you bolt this in first, you're going to end up fighting way too long trying to get this lined up, and if you cross thread that, well, you're replacing that whole piece and possibly replacing the wheel cylinder again. So that's my little 2-cent tip. So we're going to get a vice grip and something to soften the squeeze, because I obviously don't want sharp teeth squeezing on a rubber line, especially one that's most likely factory. So almost 20 years old. So get something to sandwich in there, pinch that line off, break this line loose. If you need to, you can just pull this tab here and this piece will come out. Obviously you don't want to try to do that now. If you want to try to take this metal line out completely, it does unbolt from this side as well. So you can unscrew that, unscrew this, and just take the line out. To me that seems kind of excessive, but to each their own. Who knows, maybe you end up damaging it when you go to take it off because it's too rusty. Who knows? So on that topic, I'm going to hit that with a little bit of PB just to make sure it breaks breaks free, whatever. I'm going to hit it with some PB, and then I'm going to come back after I find my little piece of metal for this, and we'll get to it. Alrighty. Alright, so I have returned from the scrap bucket. This piece of metal was cut with a plasma cutter. You see these dimples and stuff on it, but that's all on this side. This side, there's nothing there, so I'm going to use that for this. Now I haven't taken this apart before, so I don't know if it's going to fight or what's going to happen, so you'll find out when I find out. There we go. Alright, spring tension is relieved. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot harder to put back than it was to take out. Oh yeah. See all that space we got in there now? Alright, so when you're dealing with brake lines or old fuel lines, stuff that bolts together, normally you're supposed to use what's called a line wrench, and it's like a regular wrench, but it's kind of got more of a C shape to it, so there's more bite on the wrench. It's a safeguard attempt to try not to strip the bolt head, whatever you want to call it. My 13, for some reason, does not fit that. So this regular 13 does. That's where we're going to start. And let's see, we're facing the opposite direction So we're going to want to go this way. Looks like PB is our friend. When I say PB, by the way, I'm talking about PB Blaster. Rust penetrator, whatnot. While I do love the smell of WD-40, it can't hold a candle to the PB products. But, oh, also, on clamping the line, yeah, that's not going to happen. I don't know if it's steel reinforced or if it's just so old there's no give left to it, but I tried to clamp down on that and it was not budging, and I was not going to keep forcing the issue and end up having to buy the customer a brake line. So I'm just going to have more bleeding to do, unfortunately. As much as I do not like that idea, not much I can do about it. Alright, and then the bolts are 10 millimeter. There's one. And two. Finish threading this line out. Back off, brake pad. Oof. Yeah, it's seen better days. Alright. Trying not to dally here, so we get as little in there as possible, little fluid out as possible. Come on. In the hole. Well, luckily it is threading in, so it's not going to fight me on that. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start the bolts. Maybe. There it goes. There we go. And there we go. I've got the brake line threaded in as far as I can with my fingers. Also, you want to be careful when you're doing this. Make sure this seat's right, because it's got that little groove that it sits in. There it goes. Another thing you want to be careful of, get brake parts or brake fluid on your hands, your fingers. Do not touch those shoes. I don't care what anybody tells you. You do that, you're going to have a bad day. And even more so, your customer is going to have a bad day later. Alright, I haven't tightened those down. I just snugged them up a little bit. Looks like this one's lined up with the groove good. That side, not so much. Let's see. I don't know if I can improvise with this stupid piece of metal. No. It's too big. There we go. End of the wrench works fine. Alright. Okay, looks like we got the line in there. These little bugs, I don't know what they are, but they're biting me. They're not mosquitoes. Of course, they're all over. Alright, I'm going to spray this off so we get the brake fluid off of it so that I can push these pads back in and get that spring reconnected. I'm touching that one. Just enough to make it wet. I know spraying off the backside's kind of useless because when I bleed them, it's going to leak again anyway, so I'm just trying to wrangle in the mess. The weird part is my left hand feels clean, my right hand feels like I still got some brake cleaner or brake fluid on it. Problem solved. Okay, intermission. I didn't really think about it with the whole clamping the brake line thing. That little bit of air that got in there is probably just sitting right here. So we're probably okay on that. We'll just bleed that right on out. So anyway, get your brake pads back in to the little guy there. I'm noticing this guy is not nearly as collapsed as that guy was. So this might really be fun. Well, let's find out how strong my hands are. I know you can't see it, but there's a little hole here in the brake pad that this spring clips into. Can't see what I'm doing. Looks like I need to clamp a little further down. Well, aren't you just annoying? There we go, sitting in the lip. Love tap. Love tap again. Have to give it a more targeted love tap. It does not want to go in. Oh, well, I see that that's pushed them in the way the other one was. That's good. Alright, let's see if we can get that to seat the rest of the way. I need... You know what? I'm going to grab a screwdriver so that I can two-hand this. I'll pull the pressure with this and then use the screwdriver to push it into the little hole the rest of the way. Okay, I'll be right back. Alright, now, I'm going to have 3 hands to start this. Oh, come on. Seriously? It's right there. Go into your home. Ta-da! Now it's in. Alright, so in theory, the drum should fit right back on, just like it was, because we didn't mess with the, we didn't mess with the adjuster at all. There are the studs. What? What is the happening? Get out. Get out. No biologicals. No. Alright. We're gonna have to crack that bleeder just a hair so that it finishes pushing that piston in. And I'll bet dollars to donuts it's an 8. Ha! Looks like it's working. Ah. Alright, that's probably as much as it's going to work though. Worst case, we can back the adjuster off a bit, but I'd prefer not to, just because it could make things a little more complicated later. Alright, one more again. Where are those studs? There it goes. Alright. Rawr. I'm probably not going to put the wheel on until after we bleed it. Looks like I got a buddy coming over. I don't have one of those auto bleeders. It'd be nice if I did, but I don't. So, somebody's coming over to help. Alright, so I did a brain fart and I forgot to record it, but we've bled the brakes. You can see it's nice and juicy. It's not black, but it's up there. Alright, get my tools out of here. I don't want to touch this thing, it's all nasty. I do still need to hose off the backside because there's some brake fluid.
I might have to try it here at your house though, since you have a welder.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably going to be the easiest way to get those broken studs out.
And I figured if it's leaking, the gasket probably gone too.
Yeah, more than likely. All that rattling around.
Yeah.
Oh. Yes. Okay. Another! Just kidding. I don't want another.
Yeah.
I'm standing on my own. I get up when I fall. I'm standing on my own, standing tall when fate's wind blows.
All right, guys. That's all I've got for you today. We did manage to bleed the brakes off camera. I was tired and I forgot to do it. Record it, that is. I had a buddy come over, help me stomp on the brake pedal so I could bleed them out. I don't have a bleeder. I'd love one, but I don't have an automatic bleeder. But they know the car needs more work. We're just taking care of the most critical right now. And it's probably going to be making a couple of return visits to get everything sorted out. So if you're interested in that content, you know, on the Ford Escape, you know, keep an eye out. It'll be back. So I guess we'll make a little series on the maintenance in general on that one. But until next time, take care. I love you. Bye. Till next time, take care. I love you. Bye.
I love you too.
One of the front CV shafts that was getting ready. Motherfucker.
Here are my scars. This is my story. This is the tale that I tell. My mind is troubled, but no time for